As I start my second year of experimenting with cutting as a potential control method for the invasive bishop weed or gout weed, two different names for it, in this site, and the third year in the site behind me, looking at what these sites are doing kind of in like how they're coming in this spring, and to be honest, there's some hope. In basically all of these plots that I'm cutting relatively frequently, both in this site and in the other site, either with the weed whacker or the scythe, there's very minimal gout weed, and the stuff that is there is a lot less than the grass, or a lot less than like the gout weed in the control plot, like size wise. The grass in the control plot's also taller, but even relatively, it's a lot less in these plots compared to the grass. And that holds true for the other one as well. What I am noticing in these frequently cuts is there's this kind of ground covery type plant. I don't know what it is, and honestly I should look it up at this point. And that is, though present in all the plots, considerably more dominant in this plot. And I think it's denser in this plot than the other plots, but it also could be there's just less other stuff and it's not really changed. But I think it's a little bit denser in these plots. These frequent cut plots are exhibiting different behavior than our lawn, also cut weekly, where in our lawn area, the gout weed seems to be growing better than the grass, at least taller, though it's definitely not taking over from the grass. So I don't know if it's that these are just getting cut down a lot lower than the lawn, because in those areas, the lawn isn't cut super low. Less promising is this plot, which I'm cutting kind of infrequently, about once a month. And in that plot, the gout weed is coming back stronger than kind of even the control plot. Like, this is more ideal growing conditions for the gout weed than the control plot. And there's minimal grass coming in here. And to be honest, I think that's possibly why we might have some areas where the gout weed spread more, is that's kind of the treatment we might have been doing, just kind of not even necessarily thinking of a treatment, but just occasionally cutting down is what we do in a lot of our yard. And therefore, that seems to promote the growth of the bishop weed. I use gout weed. I think more formally it's called bishop weed. And so that doesn't seem like a good thing. Either just kind of let it be and it's there and doing okay, but the grass is still able to kind of run and do well, or do like a really tough kind of control on it. Now on August 15th, and I cut all of these plots that I cut, including just the occasional plot, about a week and a half ago. It was after quite a long period of not cutting, including when we had the flooding come through and impact both of these sites. What am I really noticing? Nothing substantially different. What I'm seeing is kind of this, the weed whacker plots, both of them don't seem to be growing back as well as the scythe plots. And the occasional plot in a way seems to be growing back better, but it is less dense grass. Like, the grass there is taller, but it's substantially less dense, and there's a lot more of the bishop weed, gout weed. And so I'm looking at this and trying to kind of come to some level of conclusion. It definitely seems like this every 2 week, which I've not been doing every 2 week, is perfectly adequate. And maybe it just needs to be done more frequently at the start, and then it can be maintained at a less frequent level, because like later on in the summer, just stuff is growing less than the earlier on in the summer. And this plot, like, there's even some like rather, I say large, they aren't really large, but like dead spots. But just, it's so hard to tell when you've had like severe catastrophic, well, this wasn't catastrophic, but when you've had an area get like inundated by water and just the ground being very wet for a while, like, did that cause the dead spot to form? But it seems like this relatively frequent, either the weekly or the bi-weekly, and those I haven't been maintaining at that rate through the summer, though I started out with it. But the only occasional really does not seem like a good way to treat this gout weed. That just seems to make it worse. It seems to be able to handle that better than the grass. At the end of the growing season, in every frequently cut plot other than the scything every other week near the pond, I did not observe any gout weed in those plots. I did not look very hard though, so it is likely some small bits are still there, but they were not obvious. That plot that was scythed every other week, the gout weed that existed was not very dense or anywhere near as dominant as in the control. Also, among those frequent cut plots, only the weekly scything, the one near the path, did not have a good ground cover. It was the only one with bare spots. Comparing the infrequent cutting with the control, the site by the path, though at first glance it appears that the gout weed is doing much better in the infrequent cutting, I'm not sure that that is the case. It may well be, but I just don't feel certain about it. With the missing tall grass which hides the gout weed in the control, it is hard to adequately compare the two plots. Though again, it is quite possible that the gout weed is doing better in the infrequently cut plot. It's not 100% certain in my head, though I have mentioned it multiple times as it seems obvious. I'm not certain I'll continue this experiment in future years. As general conclusions after 3 years, it appears that relatively frequent cutting, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, or at least at certain times of years a little bit less than that, seems to successfully knock back the gout weed while allowing grass to grow. It does not appear that the method of cutting matters. Less frequent cutting, a couple times during the summer, appears to promote the growth of gout weed, or at least not inhibit it while potentially inhibiting the growth of grass, at least tall grass, that can compete with the gout weed.